Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Deadline just reported that Marvel and Sony are actually thinking about doing Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 movie. It almost sounds unbelievable. Technically, they'd be finishing it because they got pretty far along in pre-production before they canceled that movie and rebooted into Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. We actually have a bunch of footage from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 because they got so far along in pre-production. I'll play it during this video. And because this sounds so unbelievable, we know they're making Tom Holland Spider-Man 4. I'll explain what I think this probably means and why they'd be talking about this right now when we know that they're mostly focused on the main MCU Spider-Man movies. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. The Secret Invasion Episode 6 finale is this week. Then we have Ahsoka episodes coming in a couple weeks and Loki Season 2 episodes coming later this year. I'll be doing videos for everything. It's going to be super crazy.
Pizza time.
But you probably saw this Spider-Man 4 Tobey Maguire news in your feeds. It started with Thomas Hayden Church, who plays Sam Raimi's version of the Sandman. He was just back in Spider-Man No Way Home with the other Sinister Six villains as part of that multiverse plot. He was asked about Spider-Man 4 during an interview recently, and it was picked up by a more reliable trade publication like Deadline, making it sound like it might actually be a thing. Normally, when stuff like this gets reported by fan sites, it's a little easier to dismiss. When trade publications, which are supposed to be a little more legit, pick it up, you actually turn your head like, wait a minute, what? Is this actually happening? He had said that he'd heard from industry insiders, like the people that actually work on these movies, not fans that just report on the movies, that Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire was a thing that they were trying to do and wanted to campaign for a spot in it, since his character was still alive at the end of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 3. Right after Spider-Man No Way Home came out, Tobey Maguire was actually talking about when he signed on for the movie. He asked the writers of the film not to give away too much of his character's backstory after the events of Spider-Man 3 because they were saving that for a potential future movie at some point. That would have basically been what happened to him during the events of Spider-Man 4 and beyond that. He did say he wanted to come back, but I think at the time a lot of us just assumed that meant Avengers 6 Secret Wars because it was a big multiverse movie.
I don't want to say like close the chapter, but revisit and have certain resolutions, and just join in this like loving creative spirit.
Even if Sam Raimi, Marvel, and Sony want to make his Spider-Man 4 movie, we know that they're mostly focused on Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4 and future sequels to that in the MCU. So at least right now, unless something changes, I wouldn't hold your breath on them doing Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 as like a completely separate solo movie, but we have gotten most of the footage from that movie that they'd already completed. This is like a really big first look. The reason this happened is because they'd already been making the movie when it was canceled back in the day, and there's a statute of limitations. Like the people that posted all this stuff were like, we're not going to get sued, Sony's not going to sue us. Sam Raimi had finished the story, they had a bunch of new suits that were made ready to go. I'll also explain what was supposed to happen in the movie as well, because we know basically what the plot was going to be. But the first big thing that you probably saw posted in your feeds that leaked out was John Malkovich's Vulture suit. He was going to play a version of the Vulture, and they were going to say that he was called the Vulture because nothing was left of his victims except for the bones. Like that's how hardcore he was going to be during the movie. He would have still been a technology-based Vulture like MCU Michael Keaton's Vulture, but it would have been a much more organic vibe like the comic book version of the character. His daughter, get this, was going to be played by Angelina Jolie, who would have also been a version of Vulture-esque during the movie. This is a small part of the final fight, like I have the entire video, but it just goes on, so you kind of get the idea. But what was supposed to happen with Spider-Man 4 is that it looked like they were going to lose their Uncle Ben cameos. The actor that played him wasn't going to be available for the movie, and they might also have lost Kirsten Dunst, and they couldn't bring back James Franco because they killed him off during Spider-Man 3. So because they didn't have Harry Osborn and they didn't have Mary Jane, they were going to introduce Felicia Hardy, Black Cat. The Vulture was going to be the main villain, and he was going to lead a Sinister Six team. The Lizard, Dr. Kurt Connors from the previous Spider-Man films, was going to turn evil as the Lizard. There would be a small romance arc with Felicia Hardy's Black Cat. She would flip sides. She'd be a little bit evil, a little bit good during the movie. The Vulture would be responsible for creating Electro, so that character would happen. You can see that they reused a lot of these ideas for Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man. Like, they did full-on Lizard, then they did Electro, they did a bit of a team-up in Amazing Spider-Man 2. But they were also going to do Mysterio, which they're finally doing now, but it was going to be Bruce Campbell, so it was going to be a slightly older version of Quentin Beck.
I'm going to try and make it more intimate, find the heart of what made Spider-Man great originally in the comic books. I'm going to try and return to the central core of the character that I fell in love with. And in that way, I'll try and make it better.
They had done a little bit of pre-production. Those are actual storyboards from the movie. And this is a portion of the script that I'll read here. So this is only a couple pages, but it sets the background for what was going on during Spider-Man 4. So the mysterious plot of Spider-Man 4 becomes known. While I'm reading from this, I'll cobble together an edit with images from Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films so it makes a little more sense. We open up in the sky, a feather falls to the ground. Just as it does, a slew of bank robbers pour out as they look up at Spider-Man swinging down gracefully, landing in a spider-like position. He beats down the criminals as the cops arrive, and the webhead swings into the alleyway. He removes his mask, revealing to us to be Peter Parker. Parker enters the Daily Bugle to reveal that JJ has been removed as editor and Adriano Toomes has taken his place, the Vulture. Toomes is a hardened, bold, and scared man who also doesn't have a sense of humor. By night, Toomes turns into the Vulture and begins to rob many banks across the city. By morning, the headline spreads across the city. Quick backstory, John Malkovich was going to play the Vulture in this movie, so picture John Malkovich when you're thinking of Adrian Toomes. Spider-Man begins to investigate the case with a utility belt that is equipped with a mini crime case. He yanks out a small magnifying glass and starts out over the scene of the crime. He notices the feather. He picks it up. Spider-Man swings into the ESU University at the ding of midnight, scrolling over the feather using a DNA scanner machine. Parker finds out that the DNA belongs to Adrian Toomes. The next day, Mary Jane calls Peter for lunch to meet her real father. Peter arrives at the Louvre kitchen with a suit clearly not fit for him, accompanied with a stash of roses. He drops them at the sight of her father, Adrian Toomes. Both Peter and Toomes shake hands. This being an awkward scene, we move our cut to Peter and MJ's new penthouse apartment. The two are arguing over the idea that the man can't be trusted and that in fact, he is the Vulture. Mary Jane leaves in anger. So they're already changing the comics quite a bit, like Adrian Toomes' Vulture is not Mary Jane's father. But then in the next part of the story, Adrian Toomes winds up causing an accident at Electro Corp and creates the Max Dillon version of Electro. Then he slowly puts together his Sinister Six team, so it would have been John Malkovich leading a version of that team. The way they were going to explain the Spider-Man Black Cat romance during the events of Spider-Man 4 is that Mary Jane was going to leave Peter Parker and move to Los Angeles to become an actress. So he was going to be single, then a little bit of time goes by, and he catches Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, committing a crime. They wind up in bed together, that begins their relationship, and then she winds up trying to help him take down the Sinister Six. I don't really know if people would have been willing to accept that love triangle with Black Cat and Mary Jane after they spent so much time developing that Mary Jane relationship and all the drama and all the weird stuff that happened during Spider-Man 3. What ended up happening, though, is the big third act twist is that Black Cat was going to secretly betray Spider-Man because Adrian Toomes had been holding her sister hostage. So it would have been this big double cross. She yanks the rug out from under him, but then triple crosses the Vulture later and helps Spider-Man take him down. They wind up winning by the end of the movie, but then Peter apologizes to Aunt May for all these problems he's been causing, and he finds out that Mary Jane still wants to be with him in Los Angeles. So remember in Spider-Man 2 when he threw the costume in the trash? Right out of the comic books, Spider-Man No More, he does the same thing off the Brooklyn Bridge. He throws the mask off the Brooklyn Bridge, then goes to Los Angeles to be with Mary Jane. The reason why that movie didn't get made is as Sam Raimi felt like they never cracked the script. They went through 3 different writers, so by the time it was getting ready to shoot, he told Amy Pascal, who's been their Spider-Man producer at Sony for a long time, that he didn't want to have another Spider-Man 3 situation and make a disappointing movie, so he told Amy Pascal to go ahead and reboot the Spider-Man character like they'd already been planning to do, and that's where you get to Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, which they announced just a little while after that. What an interesting thought that they had actually been planning on rebooting Spider-Man as far back as Spider-Man 3. So they had been developing Spider-Man 4 while they were planning on rolling out Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man. I think Sony was just waiting to see if Sam Raimi was just going to unfurl some masterpiece of Spider-Man 4. It's like, oh, okay, we'll make this instead of doing Andrew Garfield. But they wanted to have Andrew Garfield waiting in the wings just in case that didn't work out, which obviously did not. And Sam Raimi later actually reacted to Tom Holland's recasting too. He was actually surprisingly happy with the idea to take the character back to high school, do a much younger version of Spider-Man.
And I'm really glad that Marvel's taking it to high school. I think that's going to be refreshing and just like my favorite of the Spider-Man comic books. And I have a lot of faith that they really know their stuff.
The funny thing watching that, Sam Raimi already came back to do Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, so it's already come full circle with all the Easter eggs. Spider-Man came back to the MCU, Sam Raimi came back to direct more Marvel movies. Tobey Maguire said when he came back, one of his big notes when they were writing all of his scenes in Spider-Man No Way Home is that they shouldn't go into too much detail about what had happened to his Spider-Man after the events of Spider-Man 3. That's why there are only a couple of light references, because now that he was back, there was a chance they could actually do some of that in a new story. We do know that he eventually married Mary Jane. They had a daughter that's basically his version of Mayday Parker from the comics, and currently in his universe, he continues to act as Spider-Man saving people. His daughter sounded like she was very young, so he hasn't come close to retiring or anything like that, or passing the mantle on to her. Let me know in the comments, though, which movie do you want Tobey Maguire to come back in? Sony has all kinds of crossover plans, obviously, but Avengers 6 Secret Wars in the MCU is probably pretty likely. But that was essentially what Andrew Garfield was talking about in the deleted scenes that they put in the extended edition of Spider-Man No Way Home when they released it in theaters. There was a scene of him saying, "We should do this again sometime. I'll get your phone number after the big battle."
We should do this again, like, all hang out.
It's nice.
Yeah, for sure, yeah, it's a good idea. I'll just grab your number at the end of the battle.
You got it.
Doing it again sometime was basically them doing it again during Avengers 6 Secret Wars. And big reminder, the Secret Invasion Episode 6 finale is this week. I'll post my video for that next on Wednesday. We might even get a Loki Season 2 trailer video this week. If they do wind up releasing it, of course I'll do a video for it. It's going to be crazy. We'll get more footage for that during the Ahsoka episodes later in August too. Click here for my Secret Invasion finale video, and click here for all my Comic-Con trailer videos. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe,